A little button. Ray, pushing buttons.
All right, it's going.
Ready? Okay, welcome to Austin Conscious Conversations. We have some new people here today. We're going to let you introduce yourself in just a minute. Before we do, a quick introduction of us so you know who we are. My business partner here, Ray, and I will talk a little bit in just a second. Is there anything you want to say before we jump into our story?
Go for it.
Okay. So my background is in corporate, came from organizational change management. I've been doing that for almost 20 years. I started my career in communications. I worked in UK and for a lot of big companies across the US and in the UK. And then I went through a personal life crisis where I went through a divorce and downsizing and layoff and job shifting and selling my house and moving in with friends. And all these changes in a very short period of time, and that led me to an awakening and a personal transformation that I'm excited about. Led me to a new phase of my work in change management, and I still work in corporate right now, and I'm transitioning into more of this conscious kind of work. I do, as many of you know, I do human design, and working closely with Ray, I teach the New Paradigm Principles. So right now, my focus is how do I get this into corporate America, and really creating workshops and programs and ways to integrate so that people can learn to do three things. One, human design teaches you to know yourself. Second, to love yourself. And third, to know how to self-care. Because you know what it's like when you get on a plane and they say, before you put your air mask on, before you help someone else with their air mask, you gotta put your own on first. So that's what human design has helped me to do. And in combination with the New Paradigm Principles that I've learned from Ray and Lynette, I have a whole new life, and I'm very happy and very excited about the next phase. So with that, this Austin Conscious Conversations is just one way that we're integrating this information and trying to get it out there and share it with more people and build a local Austin community for people who are into these same kinds of things. And now that's a little bit about me. Ray?
Yes, I'm originally from New York City and been there most of my life, and then moved around the country for a period of time, down to Florida, lived in California and Ohio, eventually back in upstate New York, and then after a few winters in upstate New York, I said, nope, no more winters for me, I'm done, I'm out of here, because I'm going somewhere warmer. I did research and found that Texas is a great place to be, and specifically Austin and or the Dallas area. I spent a little time in the Dallas area and found I didn't really resonate with that area. Came down to visit here, loved it, and been here ever since. Now it's 5.5 years since I've been down here, since I met my lovely partner Lynette 5.5 years ago, and we've been here together during that time. And most of my life being a projector from a human design perspective, I never really fit in anywhere. I felt like the odd person out always. I was like, what's wrong with me? Until I discovered information. The first one was in the late 90s. I discovered about the life energies, which taught me that I'm just different than most people, than other people. And then when I learned about human design about 8 years ago, that showed me specifically why I'm different and who I'm really here to be. And us projectors, which only took 20% of the population, were here to be guides. And so ever since I learned that, it was like a weight of the world lifted on my shoulders and say, oh, nothing wrong with me, I'm just different. I have my unique purpose within this life and in this reality. And I've been doing coaching and this conscious kind of work ever since, and that's my passion, and that's what I do. And like Grace said, we create this meetup to create a safe space for people to share these kind of ideas. Because sometimes some of our ideas can be pretty heretical, and people, if you share them, they say, what's wrong with you? Why can't you be like everybody else? So we're here to be like who we really are to be. That's it.
Okay. So our intentions with the meetup is to explore your innate gifts through your human design. We want to help you understand who you are and what you're here for, and how to live in the flow of energy, which we experience when we know ourselves and when we're on our path. So we'll talk about that in terms of human design a little bit later. Ray, do you want to talk about the other two pieces?
Oh, I'm sorry, you lost me for a second. Where'd you leave off?
You're going to talk about conscious awareness?
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. What it means to live in conscious awareness, which is what really this group is about. Conscious conversations, conscious awareness, for me, from my perspective, is being aware, proceeding from awareness as opposed to how we've been conditioned and programmed, most of us, to be growing up, which is kind of like automate your life. You know, figure out what you want to do and just go on automatic and get things done quickly and just move without thinking about what you're actually doing and being fully present in what you're doing. So that's what kind of conscious awareness means to me.
And the last thing is we're here to learn the new paradigm principles to help us move into the new paradigm, which helps us to have with all the things that we all want: better finances, better relationships, and more living on purpose.
And better health.
And better health, of course.
Yes.
Okay. So before we move into our specific intentions for today and the content and topics we have for today, let's go around the room and do a little bit of introduction.
Absolutely.
So we could just start with who wants to start? We'll just a little bit about who you are and what made you what's your interest in our topic today and/or conscious conversations.
Can I start?
Sure.
My name is Corbin. Gosh, thank you.
Of course.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, take your time. Us projectors understand.
I'm just here to learn how I can live the entrepreneurs and I have relationships and I'm trying to finally grasp my life not the way it was, but better.
Awesome, you're in the right place, let me tell you.
What do you do now?
I work in a clinic. I'm a financial screening advisor. I actually, my passion is I help patients get medical care. That's what I do. And then on the side, because that's been so stressful, I've kind of started two businesses on the side, kind of juggling. Because I want to do that and I'm ready to do something on my own for me. I have four
Welcome to the club.
I have 4 children and I have 7 grandbabies.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yes. So they are my children.
How old are your kids?
My kids are, my oldest is 25, 24, 22, and 18. I got married really young. I was 16 when I got married and I was 17 when I had my son. And I was married for 25 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome to your new life.
That's right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
This is very exciting and again, thank you.
Thank you for coming, Carmen.
Thank you for sharing. Who's next?
Okay, I'm Kendall. I don't know how to wrap this up in a short phrase, but I guess I've always felt out of place as well and odd. I went deep into astrology for probably over 10 years, and Myers-Briggs was kind of the thing that made me start understanding myself a little more. And then back in June, I turned 30 and basically blew up all the toxic things in my life. I ended a 6-year codependent relationship with a narcissist. I identified it in my family. I ended up essentially technically being terminated from my job, even though it was the biggest blessing in the world. I just recently got hired as a legal assistant because it'll give me less responsibility because I'm going to go back to school to be a therapist. So I'm in the midst of a lot of changes, and it's weird and overwhelming and empowering, and some days I wake up really great and some days I want to hide. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Very well. Well, thanks for sharing. You're in the right place. We're glad you're here.
Thanks.
See?
Hi, my name is Marilena. I go by Z, and so I'm just here to learn and get as much information for this new paradigm. So, thank you.
All right. I'm Alethea. Y'all know me. I'm not y'all. But I'm here because I think that all of us who are here are very aware that there's a lot of changes happening, not only in our own personal lives, but around the world. And I want to jump on the right bus. So I'm surrounding myself as much as possible with people who are experiencing the desire to shift their consciousness into things that really matter and out of our programming. I'm really excited because I'm also going through a lot of changes. I feel like a caterpillar who's making my cocoon so that I can remove myself out of my job. I'd like to fire my boss so that I can just actually live my life as I'm supposed to, with the purpose that I was born to live. And so I'm surrounding myself with other people who want to do that as well, so that we can support each other as a community and help guide each other through challenges, and just through objective guidance, and just surrounding myself with people who are excited about change, even though we're all afraid of it too. And that's just us beating up against the conditioning that we're trying to remove from our lives. You know, the sense of anxiety that we're all experiencing is nothing more than you removing your programming and feeling naked. And so I'm really excited to have you all here as we stumble through our new wave together.
And I love being naked.
Oh my God, right? Me too.
Last but not least,
Alright, what are we saying?
introduction. Jerry, introduction.
I'm Lynette Ferguson, and I'm Ray's partner. And yeah,
Tell a little bit about yourself.
I do organizational change management, same thing as Grace does. And Ray introduced me to human design when we first met, and it's really made a huge difference in our relationship. It helps us understand each other better, so that it reduces conflict and helps with empathy and understanding and all that stuff. So, and then of course the new paradigm principles, which I've kind of been living for, since the mid 2000, like 2005, 2006, in that time frame is when I kind of came across these concepts. But then of course moving in with Ray, he continues to enforce them, and it really wasn't.
Or apply.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like that.
It's a safe space, Nettie. Talk freely.
Wait till I get you afterwards.
No, I mean, because he and I share these principles, it makes it so that we have a very kind of peaceful relationship. There's not a lot of drama. So it's good. It's a very effective way of living. So,
And fun too.
sure, well, ease of living is fun. Right. So.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you're all here. We thank you for. So the point of this is discussion about ascension and raising our vibrations, and with human design. So we're combining all those things into today's session, which is benefits of that are when we ascend and elevate our frequencies and we awaken, we can move into complete abundance with our health, our wealth, our relationships. We can have everything that you can imagine, because we talk about how to create your own reality and how to activate the law of attraction specifically in a way that's unique to you and your human design. There are ways to get it faster and more effectively and more efficiently. And we want to also take another full step towards being in our full power. That's what we understand awakening to be. Yes?
Oh my gosh, I've been trying to learn about the law of attraction and manifesting and all that stuff, and didn't know about it since last year. I unfortunately, about a year and a half ago, I attempted suicide, and that I learned a lot about meditating while I was at the mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left there, everything just started coming out of nowhere.
Wow.
I'm sorry I interrupted.
No,
you.
it's
No,
okay.
this is
It's a
a
discussion.
conversation.
It's a conversation.
Yeah, we're engaging each other.
Absolutely. That's great. So we'll get into more of that for sure. So when we talk about, I feel like we skipped a slide. Hold on. Guess we didn't. Okay. Well, let's just jump right in. So the idea here was, let's talk about. Well, there was a slide. It was in there somewhere. Somehow disappeared. But it was about, let's just talk about it. What does it mean to awaken? What does it mean to ascend? What does it mean to raise our vibration? Brady, you want to start us off?
Sure. So if you notice, when we're depressed or sad or feeling out of sorts, we slow down. Our breathing slows down, especially when we're in fear. Our breathing slows down. Things slow down. We freeze up. We don't feel good. We don't feel right. We just slow down. That's really our vibrations and frequencies slowing down. That's what we are. We all vibrate. Everything in this universe is a vibration and a frequency. Even these solid chairs, these are all frequencies. We are frequencies. And so we vibrate a specific frequency that determines how we feel. And if we want to feel better, we can do things to help elevate our frequencies so we can vibrate faster. If you notice, when you're happy and joyful, you're like, yay, things are feeling great, and you're vibrating faster. You can move faster, you can think faster, you feel like you can take on the world in a sense. So that's really what accelerating the frequencies and ascension is about.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
you lost my place, honey. I'm counting on that. That's my little crush there. Where were we?
Well, we were starting with explore what it means to ascend.
Ascend and awaken. Yeah, awakening is essentially is people in this reality here have been conditioned and programmed to believe that we should look outside of ourselves and give away our power. Essentially, they don't say it that way, but that's essentially what it boils down to: is giving away our power to a church, a priest, a rabbi, government, just higher institutions, other agencies look to others for answers, for help, and when we really have everything we need within us. And when we're constantly searching and getting things from outside ourselves, we're really giving away our power. We can really find the answers we need within us. So that's part of my purpose here, is to help awaken people to their true power, how powerful we are. We are such powerful people. We can manifest anything that we want in our lives. It's just a matter of getting out of our own way and remembering who we really are in this reality, and understanding that this physical reality, the things we have here, is really just 1% or less than 1% of our true existence. Really, our true existence is our higher self. It's 99%, and that's what really makes us a powerful being, and how we can use that here in the physical realm to have the life that we were meant to have. So that's my purpose, is to help awaken people to their true power.
Yes, and so when we talk about how to measure it, and what is it, and how do we measure it, how many of you have heard of the book Power versus Force? Anybody? Okay, I know that Lena is reading.
I heard it.
Of course,
Oh,
we
I've
have-
heard of it. I just haven't read it yet.
Okay, right.
It's on my to-do list.
It's definitely worth reading, and the big takeaway of it is that in this book, he's done a lot of research, and the idea is that everything is measured, right? And everything has a frequency. And so when you look at, there's the power is all the top. Where do you run this? I feel like there might be
Oh, it's a battery.
But so anyway, this is the power. So everything is a frequency, right? And so if you look at the numbers on the frequency, you can tell where you are in terms of your frequency. So if you are in, like you mentioned, going through a divorce. I went through a divorce. I mean, how many of here, is anyone here that hasn't gone through a divorce?
Hasn't.
Okay, you haven't gone through a divorce, great. So if you've gone through a divorce, then you've probably, at least, and many other things, but you've probably spent a little time in here at some point, right? So this is where you go through humiliation and shame, and you're like, you thought, like I thought, I was conditioned and programmed to believe that marriage is for life, and you don't, there's no reason that's good enough to break your marriage. And so, at first there was a lot of shame around that, and humiliation, and feeling miserable, and then guilty, and then blaming whose fault is it, and why did it work out that way? Maybe some destructive self-defeating behavior, or maybe some destruction in other forms. There's a lot of grief, regret, potentially despondency, if you feel tragic. I mean, I had a suicide episode as well, not that long ago, like probably a year ago. I mean, I was actually walking around our neighborhood, and at night, I was so despondent, and I was looking up at the trees, and every tree was like beckoning me. It was like a wanting me to hang myself. It was just a crazy experience. It was really a low point, and at that time, I really just wanted to die. I thought, like, what's the point? I just didn't want to be here. And you know, actually, when I first moved in with Ray and Lynette, I remember being in a really low place. And do you want to tell the story, Ray?
It's your story.
I just remember I had a bad headache and I was just feeling like crap and I just didn't want to be there. And you know, I came out of the living room and Ray and Lynette were there and I was just like, you know, oh morning, how are you feeling? I'm just like, I'd rather just check out. Just don't want to be here anymore. And Ray said, don't worry, it's gonna get better. I promise you, you can get past this. And I wanted to believe him, but at the moment, you know, my head was about to explode and I just really felt awful. And I felt that way for so many years, so much of my life, I felt that way and I just didn't know how it could possibly be different. And so that's an example of, you know, being in these lower vibrations. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. You know, you're in fear, you have anxiety, you're feeling like you need to withdraw, you're frightened, disappointed, you know, all this lower frequency stuff. And what I learned since then is that your health, there's a health component too, which I meant to bring this book and I forgot to grab it before we left. But I've been studying with a teacher, a master medical doctor actually. He's got the lifetime achievement. He's the guy, how many of you have heard of LASIK surgery? He was the guy that invented LASIK surgery. He did all the research behind it. I mean, genius guy, right? And he spent 7 years in bed. And he went to all the best doctors. He was sick. During the course of his research trying to get the LASIK stuff worked out, he somehow got a virus or a parasite through his eyes and it went into his brain and into his spleen. Now I did his human design chart and actually he's undefined in everywhere except his mind and his spleen. So I thought that was fascinating that that's where the parasites attacked him. I don't know, I haven't fully just, you know, spent a lot of time going into that, but I just thought it was interesting. But anyway, fascinating guy. He did a lot of research, and the research that he did, and he's written like 35 books. I mean, he's a master genius. And he did research that kind of parallels this, and it shows the health, everything on your health scale is in a frequency. So for instance, headaches, really low vibration, right? But if you raise your vibration, you can get to a much better state of health. So that's when I started learning about, I started connecting the dots between vibration and measuring frequencies and my physical health. So we're going to get into physical health in just a minute, but I wanted to open your minds to that thought that everything has a frequency, literally a measurable frequency. And when you're in these lower vibrations, it doesn't matter what you do, it's hard to get out. And then once you start getting into the higher vibrations, you see courage, neutrality. The majority of people are very, you know, most people live in this space right down here. It's very few people that get into the higher realms. And what we all want to be is 500, love or above. How many of you have heard of Mind Valley? You've heard of Mind Valley. Mind Valley, Vishen Lakshanti, okay. Yeah, so he has a program, somebody that I did some work with, and anyway, her program is called Love or Above, and it's about frequencies. 500 or above is love. And how do we get there? And so she's all about raising your vibration through energetics. So we'll talk about that in a minute too. How do we raise our vibration? But the idea here is how do we measure it? Everything is measurable. We want to get from the lower vibration, wherever we are down here, which also of course has a corresponding element for our health. We want to go up the chain and get up to love or above, because when you're at that higher frequency, your health is better, everything is better. And guess what? Your wealth is better too. I mean, what we're learning and the stuff that we're doing is that everything is at a vibration. And when you raise your entire vibration higher, everything starts falling into place. Literally, your wealth, your health, your relationships, everything starts to just rise. It's almost like the rising tide when the water rises, you know, out here, everything moves up, right? And that's what happens when you get to a higher vibration. Is there anything you want to add to this, Ray?
No, you got it.
Okay, and Lynette, I know you've been reading the book Power versus Force. Is there anything you want to say about this?
No, it's good to actually see it in a chart form, because as he's talking through it, I mean, it's good to actually listen to talk about each of these frequencies. But you had mentioned that there's actually a second book.
Yeah, and I meant to bring it. I actually bought it this week so I could bring it here, and then I forgot to bring it. But if you Google Power versus Force, you'll see that he's written a bunch of books, and that is the one that he wrote after Power versus Force. And there's other good information too. I think he wrote the book Letting Go. Has anybody here read that book? That would be super helpful for you. Letting Go, really good. Lynette and I like to listen to books on Audible, just because we do it while we drive. So anyway, that's a suggestion.
Yeah.
The but that's been super helpful.
Can you share this on our Facebook page? Not only like the image as well, but like the author.
Sure.
And that way
Absolutely.
everyone will have access to that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure, no problem. Any questions or comments before we move on? Okay, so what I wanted to do here was just to build a foundation for us to have a discussion that basically everything is frequency, it's all measurable, so for those 2-4s among us, they're very practical and let's make it immediately relevant, useful, and measurable. I wanted you to see that everything has a number and everything has a way to be measured, and what we want to get is to level above 500 or above. So how do we do that? So here's the discussion. So I just threw up a couple things that I've done and that we've discussed, but really it's the point is to start a discussion on what can be done and to sort of think of it in different ways. So if we think of it in terms of physical, there's obviously the food. Everybody's heard of high vibration food, probably, right? So you know that the vibrations in food is measurable, and there's high vibe food, and that's why the whole raw food movement is such a big deal, because as people look at cerulean photography, have you heard of that before? Cerulean photography is a type of photography that measures based on energy, like it can pick up the energetic frequencies of things. And so they've taken pictures of live food versus cooked food versus meat, and it's kind of like, whoo, really different. The high vibe food is the raw stuff, and the live foods, juices, and raw juices, and that kind of thing. It's very, very high vibration. So if you want to raise your vibration and you want to focus on the physical side, there's a lot of ways to do it with food and then also exercise. So I'm going to pause here, and Lynette is a health coach as well, and she's got a lot to say about this. We're having some conversations earlier. Do you want to add anything more about how to raise your vibration from a physical perspective?
Well, I think you pretty much covered it.
Yeah, let's move on. Talk about autophagy. Come on, get up.
Oh, my goodness.
Come on.
Well,
Come on.
you want me to say it? I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. So, has everyone heard of autophagy?
Not that great.
No. So there's
Ketogenic.
yeah, like ketosis, like getting into ketosis.
Okay.
So fasting puts your body into a state of autophagy. Autophagy means self-eat. And what happens when you go into autophagy, when you get into a fasted state for around 20 hours, your body starts to basically eat itself. And what it's doing is it's like the night crew coming in and doing all the cleanup and removing all the trash. Well, that's what your body does once you give it a rest from food and digestion, is it starts taking out the trash. So it's removing cancer cells, it's removing dead and malformed cells, and basically anything that's broken cellularly, it's basically removing and recycling those cells. So it's really powerful. They've actually shown that people that do extended fasting have like a very high percentage less instance of cancer. So I have actually started implementing fasting. I'm doing alternate day fasting. Grace, you're starting to do it. I know Ray's starting to do it.
I haven't fasted for years.
Yeah, he's been fasting for years, but not with a focus on autophagy. So now he started to focus on autophagy.
Is that 3 days before it hits that?
20 hours.
20 hours? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's one way to basically raise your physical vibration is through fasting and autophagy. Ketosis is something. It's a process of basically getting your liver holds glucose, and when you are in ketosis or in a fasted state, your body has to utilize the stored glucose. So when you're in ketosis, you're basically eating a diet that has like 20 grams or less of carbohydrates, and focus more on fats than even protein, and that allows your body to then consume the glucose that's stored in your liver before it then starts pulling using the fat for fuel. That's the whole point of getting into ketosis, is using fat for fuel. And so any of us that has extra weight, that's basically stored energy. And getting into a state of ketosis allows your body to access that stored energy. So does getting into a fasted state. So when you're in a fasted state, Your body then uses the glucose in your liver first, then it goes to your fat stores and it says, I want that energy that's stored. And allowing your body to do that is extremely beneficial. So it's another way of raising your vibration physically. So does that pretty much cover?
That's good, thank you.
Any questions?
I just wanted to say, I would like, if you guys would be interested, to facilitate a periodic, at least every 3 months, where we actually host an Airbnb to take people out of the city and out of a stressful environment, so that we allow them to do the fasting if they want, or to at least do a whole raw fruit detox. And so, like, anybody who wants to completely do fasting, no cooking in the house, so that the smells don't trigger resistance. That's something, I was just talking to my friend Hillary, who wanted to come today but she couldn't, and I told her, I said, let's go ahead and start our own movement towards detoxification, where like we help encourage, because that's a part of my process, is healing my relationship with food and nutrition. That's part of my journey, and so I want to help facilitate that for other people. I'm doing that for myself, and I struggle right now. I'm challenged by that, because I'm in an environment of too much bombardment. You can't drive down the street without seeing something that has to do with food, and I want to make sure that I'm in an environment that I have no external distractions. And so if anybody would be interested in that, I'll definitely make sure that we create that page and manage that.
Good idea, love it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I'm actually, when we were, Grace and I just were on our vacation, and the ladies that we were with were wanting me to create like a multi-week program to walk people through all of these processes. So getting into fasting and losing weight and restoring our health and basically eliminating the insulin resistance that anyone that has in the belly fat has insulin resistance. And fasting is pretty much the only way to basically heal yourself, heal your insulin resistance. I know for myself, I did 2 weeks of alternate day fasting, along with 1 meal a day fasting, and then also with intermittent fasting. So that 17-day period, I lost 9 pounds and kept it off during my vacation. And it's because that period of time when I was fasting, I healed my insulin resistance that my body had, which was then making me store more fat than I should have otherwise. And so when I was on vacation, I got on the scale this morning, I was shocked that I pretty much kept off all of the weight that I had lost before I went on my trip, which I was very excited about. So, and I pretty much determined that that this is my new lifestyle, because it is so healing to